You're listening to Binjang 91.5, and it's Tony Graham here in Studio 2, and I have Matthew Dickerson right here for Tech Talk. G'day, Matthew.
Yeah, g'day, Tony. I've been looking forward to this version of Tech Talk all week.
So have I, particularly with the topics. They're so exciting this week. I can't wait to get through them. So the first one is, well, pop quiz. You reckon this is a pop quiz. And how many people does it take to remove the weeds from 8 hectares of onions? This one's right up my alley.
Well, I think at the moment we're aiming towards about 0 people being used to weed a block of 8 hectares. There's a new little robot laser, a farming robot, and the estimation from the manufacturers of this particular robot laser is that it can do 8 hectares in a day. Now, when you talk to some farmers, say, for example, an onion crop, the estimation from a farmer with an onion crop of about 8 hectares, they say that that would take about 30 people to do the weeding for that in one day. This little robot will go around autonomously and do the weeding. And, of course, it's got to be cool, Tony, because it's got a laser on board. So what's not cool about that? It basically uses cameras as it scans over the ground. It's got a speed of about 8 kilometres an hour, and it scans the ground as it goes along, and as it sees weeds in the ground, it hits them with a laser. And again, the rate of that is about 100,000 weeds per hour. So quite incredible. You set it going, you walk away, you go and do some other work, you come back at the end of the day, and it's taken care of, as I say, that 8 hectares in a day for you. Quite incredible. You really have to make sure, if you're going to use this sort of technology, that it is actually able to see the weeds versus the plants, because obviously you don't want to come back and see that the lasers hit all the plants, all the good plants in a row rather than all the weeds. So that's where most of the research and most of the technology and the AI has gone in this, is making sure it's identifying weeds with the 12 cameras on board to get those weeds and then hit them with the lasers. 8 lasers, not just one laser, Tony, 8 lasers on board.
I really like this idea, Matthew. There has been some development with Australian manufacturers in New South Wales, actually, where they've developed this kind of technology, but they're using a herbicide. And there's also other people that have been looking at using steam or hot water to do the same thing. But obviously lasers is cleaner and probably more efficient than anything else so far.
Yeah, and you're not actually touching the soil. So the idea of the laser, rather than pulling a weed out, you're actually impacting the soil or using a herbicide. There's obviously some controversy around the type of herbicide that you might use. So that basically puts all those arguments to bed and says, if you can't work out what to do, then hit it with a laser.
I like the idea. Now, can light travel around corners? What do you reckon?
Well, normally I'd say no, but Ford has got some new headlight technology, and they're actually using GPS to intelligently illuminate the road around corners. Now, I've had cars for many years, Tony, that have had the lights turn into a corner in reaction to you turning the steering wheel. The more you turn the steering wheel, the more the lights will turn into a corner. So that's quite nice, and that sort of technology's been around for a while, but it's really only reacting after you're reacting. But the latest technology from Ford actually uses the GPS, which your car has already got, and it knows the maps, it knows where the roads are, but it can also see ahead, and based on your trajectory, your speed at the time, and the road ahead, it will actually start to turn your headlights into the corners before you actually get to those corners, so you can see around that corner before you're actually there. Very clever bit of technology to be able to do that, but more importantly, to me, it's got to make driving at night time safe. And of course, driving at night time is the time that more accidents on a per kilometre basis occur than daytime for obvious reasons. But imagine the idea of that, just being able to see around those corners. Often we look at headlights in vehicles and it just gets down to brighter lights or whiter lights. But there's more technology now being put into more intelligent lights. Dare I say it, Tony, smart lights. I don't know if these are called smart lights, but everything seems to have the word smart tagged in front of it these days. But these are definitely smart lights because they're looking at where the car is going to go and then pointing the headlights in that direction.
Well, Matthew, I have a Ford Fairlane that I had from, in the 2000s. And what I used to love about that car was it had a side light. And when you put your blinkers on, which obviously you do before you get to the corner,
Yep.
the side light would illuminate whichever direction you're going to be turning in. So you get a heads up well and truly before you got to the corner what was there. So a very similar idea to that. And I just used to love that.
Yeah. And look, the reality is that things like that are reacting to the human. They're trying to get a little bit cleverer than that and go one step forward and say, let's react before the human needs to actually do anything. Let's make it safer for the driver of the car without the driver having to actually do anything. And that's where I think this sort of technology is going that even step further than the blinker idea.
Yeah. Now, if you're interested in an electric car, and I'm certainly quite interested in electric cars, and the idea that of trying it before you buy would, I think, interest a lot of people. Now, is there a possibility of that?
Yeah, there is a possibility of that, Tony. And I think the big thing that people get a bit scared of is the ticket price, the initial ticket price. Now, we can go through and do all the calculations. We could spend a whole tech talk session, Tony, on doing the calculations to demonstrate to people that the total cost of ownership of an EV is actually less than the equivalent petrol car. But people see that ticket price and they get a bit scared. So there's a new subscription service that's just starting here in this country called SonnenDrive. And what they will do is they will let you just lease a car, electric car. They're dedicated to electric cars. But you don't lease a car like you would normally lease a car where you basically take ownership of that car. You lease it for 2 weeks if you want. You can change the electric car you've got after 2 weeks. You can cancel the service after 2 weeks. So you could actually just have a go. You could try driving it. You could see how it charges. How far can you get? Can I get around my daily life with this? And even though SonnenDrive wants you to keep using the cars, they realise that some people will say, well, this is actually pretty good. I don't need it anymore. Thanks very much. I'll go and buy one for myself. So it is a subscription service. You've got a range of electric cars to purchase to lease. And again, that 2 weeks is fantastic. The 2 week minimum that you've got to use it for is a way for people to really test it, change cars, try a few different ones and get the hang of that before they then go out and actually fork out for an EV.
I noticed that the MG ZS costs $319 a week to do this. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the price they've quoted for an MG ZS EV. Now that covers
the Tesla is $447.
Yeah,
and I should make note too. Interesting enough that both those cars these days are manufactured in China, into the Australian market anyway.
correct.
The Model S, Tesla Model S, though, is still manufactured in Texas, isn't it?
Well, the S, you can't get the S at the moment because they're ramping up for the new model of the S, which will be available probably end of this year, early next year. So you for love nor money, you can't get a Model S at the moment. You can only get a Model 3, which, again, the one's coming to Australia. Some friends of mine that have got a Model 3, that's being manufactured in China. So you're quite right. They are being manufactured presumably to Tesla standards, so it shouldn't really matter
yes.
where it's being manufactured.
I should point that out, yeah.
But go back to the MG for a moment, Tony. The $319 a week, that might sound expensive initially, but that covers your registration, your insurance, any maintenance. They don't need much maintenance, but any maintenance that might be needed, any servicing, even roadside assistance. So if you do drive and don't quite get your battery right and you've run out of battery power, they'll come and pick you up. So it's all covered in that $319 a week. The only thing you might have to pay for is plugging in. Now, they give you the ability to plug into a normal power point at your home, but what I would do if I was trialling one is I'd probably go and use an RMA charger. They're free. The MG you can't use in a Tesla charger, but the Tesla you would obviously be able to use in a Tesla charger. Depending on the exact specifications there, you might pay for that charging. But in general terms, the charging component is not a large part of owning an EV. So I think it's a great idea to let people have a bit of a go, try them out. If they're not sure, they can test it out and then make their mind up after having used it.
Yeah. Okay. You've been talking to Matthew Dickerson, or I've been talking to Matthew Dickerson.
Someone's been talking to Matthew Dickerson.
Well, and you've been doing a lot of talking on Tech Talk. So, and it's been very interesting this morning. Why not tune in to the latest Tech Talk after this one, which will be this afternoon on Binjang 91.5.
Great, Tony. We'll chat again this afternoon.
Thanks very much.